Hello, guys. I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing very well. It's a beautiful Wednesday evening. It's October 8th, 2025. And I like to let you guys know, in case you're not listening to this on my YouTube channel, my YouTube channel is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or just go to YouTube and type at Sudarshana Starshine Star. And I have, I think it's about 276 podcasts there now on a variety of topics. Why not check it out? And if you like this content, please remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I know you know all this good stuff to do. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate you. I like to begin all of my clips with the three opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are short. They are the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra, and I do this to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. Before I do that, though, I'm going to ask for Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, and Mother Mary to be with us. I'm commanding on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us and all of our beloveds and all of our social media accounts, including all the ways that we express and communicate for the best and the highest. Yeshua, please remove all satanics and satanic attachments. Please remove all demonics and demonic attachments. Cast out the spirit of pain. Cast out the spirit of fear. Cast out the spirit of lack and poverty. Cast out the spirit of mental instability, doubt, and confusion. Cast out the spirit of ill health. Cast out the spirit of frustration, rage, jealousy, envy, feeling left out, resentment, self-dislike. Cast out all negative memories, all negative thought, words, and deeds, all negative karmas. Thank you, Yeshua. Please send your healing presence now. Please heal the wounds in our soul, Yeshua. Thank you, Yeshua. Thank you, Jesus the Christ. We receive your blessings and your healing presence. Mother Mary, please be here with us, with all of us and all of our beloveds ever more strongly in this eternal moment. We know you have a fierce and gentle, pure, loving, blissful, divine mother's heart for all of us. Thank you so much for your beautiful presence and guidance and blessings and upliftment and restorative peace, along with your pure, 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 divine, excellent love for all of us, no matter what. Thank you, Yeshua. Thank you, Mother Mary. Amen. Swaha. Now to the prayers. Om, 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshvaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shuklam Bharataram Vishnum, Sishivarnam Chatulbhujam, Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashante. Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wonderful. Well, I think I already said, but I'll repeat it in case I didn't, that it's a beautiful evening. It's late. It's October 8th, 2025. So let's get into this. I'm going to call this podcast Red October Part 3. Portland finds out Antifa Handbook Dude Flees. If I can fit that all in the title on my YouTube, I will do it, even if I have to squish the words together. So this is from a great channel by Cash Jordan, and I'm just going to convey this to you guys now. It started off with a newscaster on Fox saying this. President Trump announced that he will send troops to Portland. The president says the decision is necessary to protect ICE facilities, which he describes as under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. And then Cash says, so America's worst city, Portland, Oregon, is now about to experience the full weight of a U.S. military crackdown. But while the local sanctuary mayor and governor complain this is unnecessary and stage videos alleging Portland is perfect, every other video of this place tells a completely different story, which U.S. troops are on their way to end. And then this is... I do believe that this is... Yeah, this is. This is from... Excuse me. It was also former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. I always mispronounce his name. I want to say Gingrich. It's Newt Gin... I can't say it. Newt Gingrich? Yeah, I think I got it. So he's speaking and he's on Fox and he says, we are in a genuine, legitimate cultural civil war. There are people on the left, largely big government socialists with weird values. They really do feel that their entire way of life is imperiled. And then it cuts to a clip of Governor Kotek. Hello, Oregon. Governor Kotek here. Portland is not war-ravaged. There's no insurrection. There's no threat to national security. And there's no need for military troops. And I'm saying, I don't know, this male, I don't know, female Oregon governor, it's just spouting pure lies there. And right was that when that governor was speaking, there was a B-roll behind that governor playing of the intense battling that's on the streets of Portland that is shown right now. It's such a war zone. And that governor tried to do some BS malarkey nonsense of showing herself, himself, I don't know, with her girlfriend strolling through like this little area of Portland and saying, oh, it's so peaceful, it's so whatever. Yeah, it was just a big fake out. They just found a little quiet spot and they're making like that's all of Portland. But believe me, I'm not in Portland, but I'm in a blue, corrupt, democratic, leftist, Marxist city-state area. Yeah, God put me here, so that's why I'm here right now. And I've lived this, so it's just a big gaslighting, a big lie, and this is all a bunch of nonsense when these like this governor of Oregon, like we see like the governor and mayors of Chicago and different places when they're like, we're fine, we're perfect, you know, please ignore the hell happening behind us, you know, don't pay attention to that. It reminds me of 2020 in the summer of love, so to speak, when it literally looked like it was like a hellscape from those old Terminator movies or something like that, or like a apocalyptic sci-fi movie where everything is just up in flames, and there'd be newscasters speaking in front of it, calling it like what happened in Minneapolis, like a peaceful protest. I mean, I don't even know how they attempt these kind of things. They really believe that we the people are just as dumb as rocks. But let me get back to this. So then this clip is showing like the violent smoke of nighttime. It's like a war zone and it's raging, and Fox News puts up this video here, and it says in the corner that it was filmed by the excellent indie journalist Katie Daviscourt on X. And she almost had her eye poked out by Antifa a few days ago. She's healing, God bless her, but that she almost had her entire eye smashed out of her head. Okay, so then Fox News is saying, now June 4th were the start of these protests here in Portland, and the first time that Antifa tried to impede federal officials by blocking the driveway, blocking those ICE vehicles, and then fast forward to July, where you had ICE agents that were doxxed. Antifa members tried to burn down this federal building. And I'm saying, listener, I'm interrupting and saying, first time, Heck no. That's not the first time. Antifa has been burning and looting and rioting and terrorizing Portland for many years. So many years. And, they try to burn down federal courthouses and with people in them, and police stations with people in them. And they did that not only in Portland, but in Seattle. All during the time of the Summer of Love, all over the place. So it's not the first time. But anyway, another newscaster speaking on Fox, she's showing on a Fox special report that they just did. And she's saying this is a full-on abdication of police duty in a 4-block radius that impacts some of the most vulnerable Oregonians that we have. And they just said, meh, we're just going to let violent rioters do this for 80 days, for 80 straight nights, and we don't care. Now here's President Trump speaking. He said, these are wild, these are crazy people, and they're trying to burn down buildings, including federal buildings, but we're going to get out there and we're going to do a pretty big number on those people in Portland. And then there's like this little aside that I think, Cash put up that said the, quote, sanctuary, end quote, of Portland is collapsing. There was a New York Post headline that said, protesters clash with ICE agents as Trump deploys federal troops to war-ravaged Portland. And then Cash says, so as plans to liberate Portland from Antifa kick in, these not-so-peaceful protesters are still trying to kick ICE out. And what nobody's talking about is the absolute pack of lies defenders of this place are sticking to in an attempt to say that we don't need troops, we don't need the military, everything here is just perfectly wonderful. While the local economy collapses all around them, with businesses fleeing the area as fast as they can, probably because normal people are terrified to come out here and spend money on anything. On top of that, we just had more than 3 months of just non-stop rioting in Portland, which the leaders of this place have done absolutely nothing to try and stop. Just like they've done absolutely nothing to try and stop any of Portland's other problems. But that's because this place has devolved to the least orderly type of city, a sanctuary city, where in addition to decriminalizing all other types of lawless behavior like unrelenting rioting, there's also an attempt to decriminalize U.S. immigration law, which means criminals the world over, whether homegrown Antifa or Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, will be safe here and harbored from the consequences of their actions. Which brings us to the real reason U.S. military intervention in the lawless city has to happen. If you have a place like this, it can't be allowed to spread and grow. If it does, the whole country is in danger. Already we're seeing the same type of Antifa behavior in Chicago. We saw it in Los Angeles. We're seeing it in New York. And the plague of Portland is attempting to be replicated in other sanctuary cities all across this country. But notice something. We don't have any Antifa in places that punish crime from top to bottom in jail. Thieves, shoplifters, and those who assail others in public, like the state of Florida, which has seen 0 Antifa members storm into its alligator Alcatraz, the same way they do when they're riding in Portland on their home turf. And then Cash shows this really crazy, intense video just from today of all the war zone warfare in that 4-block radius of that federal detention center building of ICE in downtown Portland. So then Cash says, so even after a prominent agitator gets arrested, these other rioters keep throwing themselves at ICE agents, just screaming at the top of their lungs. It's wild. Truly ridiculous behavior, which wouldn't happen if the police here did their job this past summer. But if you think that's bad, let's take a quick dive into the minds of some of these madmen. And then Cash shows a video of Antifa standing right at this blue line that was painted on the the edge of the federal property there to designate to Antifa, don't cross this line because then you're stepping in illegally into federal territory. So they're standing right at this line outside of the Portland Federal Building, and they've just dumped like a big bucket of red paint all over the blue line in the street. And then there's this, like Antifa, I don't know if he's like a kind of a commander. He's acting like kind of like a cult leader with a bullhorn and kind of like a part-time film director. I mean, I'm expecting him to say something like, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up or whatever, because he's yelling these directions and instructions at this group of Antifa with this bullhorn, and he's telling them, if you really believe, you've got to show it. You've got to get down on your knees in the street and rub your arms and hands in that filthy red paint that's in that filthy street. And they do it, and then he's like, and you've got to show them that you really care, that you're really invested into this. And he tells them to take their hands full of that paint and rub it, that all that filth, all on their faces, and they do. I mean, it's just so crazy. And he says that he says, do it so people can see. Yeah, all right. And anyway, Cash comments on the filthy mess of that, and then he says, what's fascinating is that they just painted over the one line that shows them a limit to their lawless behavior, because if they cross that blue line, they'll get arrested for trespassing government property, which reveals the number one problem destroying Portland. Basic law enforcement hasn't been happening here for a long time. And if you just arrest these lunatics for violating noise ordinances, assaulting others, or defacing property, they would get sent to jail, and they wouldn't be out here on the streets night after night. And I have to say, no, that's wrong, Cash, because the police are corrupted there, and they're on the dark side. We've already seen that. They were giving like thumbs up and everything to Antifa as they were arresting journalists several days ago, and grinning, and they're just it's not neutral. They're on the side of Antifa. So and the people just walk in and out of the courtrooms and jails, no cash bail, it's a revolving door, no sentences, nothing. And we've seen that in all the I'm saying this, not Cash, all the Democrat-led demonic sanctuary cities. I mean, we've been living with this for years. It's really terrible, like, homicidal criminals. They're also doing a lot of raping, a lot of assaulting minors sexually, just terrible thieves, busting into businesses and homes and assaulting people on the street, and with weapons, and pushing like old people down flights of cement stairs that lead down to subways, making them break their bones and crack their head open. They're doing the most terrible things, and they've been getting away with it. Yeah. So, anyway, they're being set free over and over again, back out on the streets to commit mayhem and murder. I say all according to plan, all part of the evil's agenda 2021, 2030, all a part of Ordo Abkeo, like you see, one of the evil satanic controllers, one of their corrupted Freemasonic Illuminati mottos that you see like on our $1 bill in the U.S. That means that they create chaos, and then they want you to beg them for help, beg for any help, and then they'll give you help in terms of their solutions, which only further their own satanic eugenist, genocidal war on humanity. So they just want you to, like what people were saying in the events that happened before the lockdowns, and you know what I'm talking about, where so many people were saying, oh, we just want to be safe. We'll give up all of our rights. We don't care about our freedoms. We just want to be safe. And it's ridiculous. To paraphrase that famous quote, if you do that, if you offer up your freedoms in exchange for safety, you don't deserve either, and you won't get either. And it's like, that's so true. So anyway, I'm just saying this, Cash isn't saying this, that, the satanic 2021, 2030 agenda is they only want 500 million people left in the earth realm out of 7.8 billion. They only want those beings to be slaves, to be chipped and programmed, chipped in their brain, so that you can just turn them on and off and give commands and all that stuff very easily. They want them, the humans, not to be organic anymore, to be part android, and to be sterile, so they can't reproduce. and they're living in like controlled areas called smart cities, which it's really just like a big prison. And we've seen that for years. That already happened in communist China with the social credit system and all the misery that they're going through because of that. And at its root, all of this is just really a great cosmic battle between good and evil, between dark and light. So all these satanic evil controllers that operate all of this communist leftist agenda, all this radical Muslim Sharia law imposing agendas, they're just truly insane. They're psychopaths. Don't doubt that. All of this is like far beyond politics. And yes, they are pedos and pedivores. I mean, the whole thing is beyond comprehension, but it just happens to be true. And they require lots of babies and children for their sacrifices and satanic rituals. And on that note, what I really want to say, I'm interjecting here because I'm going off topic here, but because we're in the month of October, I sincerely hope that all of you know what Halloween really is. That it's one of the biggest BLOOD sacrifice and sex orgy days of the year for the satanics. So get your hands on a satanic calendar. Yes, it's a real thing. It shows you what's required for all their many holidays throughout the year, and what type of sacrifices are required from whom and how much and everything. It's very specific. And they need the kids, and also the children dressing up as like witches and warlocks and ghouls and devils and ghosts and demons and monsters, etc. It's like one of the biggest tricks to seduce kids into loving the dark side. And the evils, they just laugh themselves silly that how God's children of Adam, prance around willingly with love for their dark masks and these like ghouls and dark costumes and symbols of the underworld and things like that. These evil, grinned, carved pumpkins using candles to pull demonics to your home. If you don't think that's real, it is. And all the skeletons and cobwebs decorating your home. And to top it all off, all the poison junk in the mass-produced candy that, that is eaten. And I don't just mean like sugar. I mean actual things like formaldehyde and chemical things in there that humans shouldn't be eating, much less children. How susceptible they are to this stuff. And I'm going to give one more instance here. There's an old game. I don't know, maybe at Halloween parties, people are still doing it. Like maybe in places, large cities like Manhattan or something, where lots of times people just have big Halloween parties for their children indoors and not like going around in the neighborhood. But if anyone's still doing like bobbing for apples, that old game where you have you get like a wash tub and you fill it with water and you put a bunch of apples in it, and then children get on their knees and put their hands behind their back and they can only use their mouth, and they try to get an apple first, be the first one to get the apple out of the water, and they have to hold it in their teeth and raise their head up. Bobbing for apples game. Well, that game, it's not really a game, it was a ritual. It's an old ritual where the satanic evils would take two children and they had to compete and bob for the apple, and the loser that didn't get the apple was the one who was placed in the middle of like a Wicker Man, like you see in that movie The Wicker Man, or like Burning Man, like we have the Burning Man festivals and you see these big effigies of straw and wicker or whatever that are burning. They're placed inside of that and then set on fire with all the evils chanting and doing all their ceremonies. So it's a very evil ritual. And once again, they just laugh that we have a game of making our precious children play, that bobbing for apples game. Yeah. It's part of their harvest rituals. Anyway, and things like at this time, even though it's not this only time, but, Ouija boards are not playthings. They're actual very dark things that you can open up and invite really dark energies, and to have that as a game for children or like teenagers where they think they're just being harmless and playing whatever, it's not. So don't even go near those things. That's my advice. So this is the wake up time. Please, people, I'm really asking you, don't say things like, we have to stick to this, these are our traditions, and blah blah blah. I mean, it's just crazy. If you know something that is harmful to yourself or to children, even if there's a real strong chance of that, it's like, why keep sticking to it just because saying, well, I did that when I was a child and I liked it and this and that. Yeah, but when you know the origins of things and the price that's paid for that, even if you're not fully cognizant, there's so much darkness that comes out of that. And we don't have to participate in that. Going forward, we can make, to make All Saints Day, we can turn it into something fun for kids and give them treats, but like not that kind of poison candy, but like healthy, good treats that they like, that still taste good, and things that are fun, and have them be in costumes, but more like with like heroes and something positive. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up, or who do you admire? Not all this focusing on like, the crypt opens and all these like ghouls and demons and vampires and witches and warlocks and everything come out. Nope. Anyway, last thing I want to say about that is that there's so many lies that have been told to us. Things like it's really good for us and healthy for us to let out our inner devil or beast. Just let it run free, like at this like Halloween time, at different times, that you just are, it's all good and whatever, like, it brings you relief and pleasure just to be, a devil and a beast and just let out all this. It's not true. It's not true. That's not your real nature, and that only devolves you. Doesn't give you relief. If it feels like it's relief, it's temporary. Yeah. Okay. So now back to this Cash Jordan report. And once again, he's showing on his channel a Fox special report that said Portland police have not made a single arrest since June 18th, despite a number of assaults. One resident sued the city to force cops to enforce the laws, and this was uncovered during discovery. One officer telling another on the police radio, quote, "If it were not ICE, we could assist directly." Cash, on the police radio, local cops were saying, "Oh, we can't go over there, that's the ICE building. Nope, can't enforce our own laws in our own city because it's ICE and we're a sanctuary city and we can't help them. That's ridiculous." Which perfectly explains why the military is en route to Portland as we speak. In fact, they're already setting up to start conducting major operations, and that's what we need, because the Antifa folks, they might look crazy, but that's because they are crazy and they're extremely dangerous, and they cannot be allowed to continue what they've been up to. And then a reporter on Fox is showing the federal building, and it's just like the madness of the war zone area. And the reporter saying, outside of this, take a look at it, you can see that the facility is completely boarded up. You're actually looking at some of those videos of those clashes we've seen, of crowds throwing rocks and grenades, even launching fireworks at agents and towards the windows of this facility. Some crews have even attempted to set a fire while agents were still inside the building. Now take a look at this from earlier this month. Protesters were rolling out a replica guillotine, and it was a big one too, in front of the ICE facility in Portland. In response, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, sent out saying this, quote, "American people gave us a clear mandate to secure their homeland in Portland and across America. Threats, lies, and vile attacks will not alter our course." Now that designation of Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization does declare Antifa as an anarchist enterprise that exclusively calls for the overthrow of the United States government. And then Cash says, right, you can't have that. You can't have a group that is calling for the overthrow of our entire country, which they are. They want communism instead of capitalism. They want to reopen the borders and flood the country with illegal immigrants, which is why they're attacking the detention center in Portland for illegal immigrants. And President Trump said, when you go out to Portland and you see what's happening in Portland, this is like nobody's ever seen anything like it, every night. And this has gone on for years. They just burn the place down. They are professional agitators. These are bad people, and they're paid a lot of money by rich people, some of whom we know. And then Cash says, the president's right. This is a well-oiled anarchy machine out here, And these aren't just regular protesters that got up one day and said, you know, I'm going to go out and I'm going to speak my voice and I'm going to send a message in a peaceful manner to let people know how I feel. No, it's not. None of this is organic. None of this, I mean, it's homegrown, but it's homegrown extremism that is supported. These people do not represent the majority of the country whatsoever. And the funding mechanisms of this madness need to be tracked down and dealt with as well. And it's also worth pointing out that the largest funder of all this madness is the U.S. government itself. Remember, our benefits package for those who are unable to work are so generous. We just had 20 million illegal immigrants enter our country so they could live here for free. All of these protests, they're benefiting from a social safety net that provides a base for them to attack the federal government on. I think that if you're going to attack the federal government shouldn't pay you and support your lifestyle while you do this. If these people were to lose their benefits, poof, this would all be gone. But I'm saying, listener, of course, Cash needs to add in about the George Soros affiliated funding that support these terrorist organizations and have done, on top of the whatever government benefits they're getting. So that's a really important point. It's both of them together. And then Cash says, but as you're about to see, there's something even more frightening taking place on the streets of Portland, which every American needs to be aware of. And then Newt Gingrich is back on Fox saying, the left has a long history of violence. In the 1960s, the FBI reported 2,500 bombing attempts in the United States. And we sort of brushed all that off and forgot about it. But there's a deep tradition in the left of people who hate American society, hate the concept of freedom, have all sorts of negative words to describe us, and feel that they are empowered to out. Cash says, yep. Back to Newt, he says, the Democrats you quoted about Antifa. Antifa has been causing a nightmare in Portland for years. Burning things down. To suggest that Antifa doesn't exist, I think requires living in a fantasy land. Cash, right. And there's a very interesting point here. The type of rioting and lawlessness, it's been allowed for the party of political violence to engage in this for decades. And something, all those 20-year-old screaming Antifa members dressed up as anime characters, these people have parents. What do you think their parents are thinking? What do you think their parents were up to 20 years ago? And even if these people were radicalized at a college or a university, there's this idea in America that it's okay for people on the left to go out and burn the place down, and nothing should be done about it. And it's just free speech. I mean, we've seen this in many different cities across the country over the last 5 to 10 years. But listen to where that is leading America. Then back to Newt. Look, I think we have to recognize that we are in a genuine, legitimate cultural civil war. There are people on the left, largely big government socialists, with weird values who are sincere. I mean, they really do feel that their entire way of life is imperiled. And then Cash says, you know what? It needs to be imperiled. Because these people take to the streets. They assault others. They want to burn down buildings. They attack law enforcement. They attack federal troops. Anybody who behaves that way, yes, whatever their value system is, it needs to be looked at. It needs to be put under the microscope. And you know what we're learning? We're learning that these people, no matter where they're doing this, rioting, you see the same flags being flown. You see the same hatred for America on their faces and coming out of their mouths. They're all spouting the same slogans, and they're always lining themselves up, throwing themselves at police in a violent manner. And then when there's an expected reaction to that, when crowd control has to happen, they say, oh, they're abusing us. They're so awful. They're so terrible. We need to look at that. If we don't, there's going to be a big problem here. And then Newt says, Because the world they wanted to create, the world that Barack Obama and Joe Biden was helping them create, was a world which had open borders, had no police or very weak police, had no bail, had criminals wandering around. The whole route. Just think about all the different values that the left had accumulated over the last half century. Terrible. And all of that is now being washed away by an American people. When you combine big government socialism, and then Cash interrupts to say, and they hate it. That's why they're on the streets. That's why they're attacking law enforcement. And dealing with this radicalism in America is not complicated. And it happens in two ways. First, you got to vote against people who believe this stuff. You got to vote against any politician that is out there pandering to this radical element. Normal people in America love law enforcement. We love our military. We support our troops, whether they're somewhere else in the world or whether they're here on the streets of Portland, Oregon. We don't want to see them attacked. Yet that's what these people want to do. And I also have to say, though, of course, we have to clean up our election methods in order to get a proper election. We can't have the corrupt and, vote stealing and all this stuff going on that's been so rampant. And I've been a direct experiencer of that myself with my... I live in a place that only has mail-in ballots. There's no other option. And I always wait till the very last minute to do it, and I bring it over to a box. I don't mail it anywhere or drop it in. I put it in my own self, pull open the little lever drawer and put it in there. But I had and I took pictures of it and I put it on all my other social medias. But I had heard about this, but I didn't know how true it was until... like 4 years ago, I got my, mail-in ballot, and the envelope was in perfect condition, the outside envelope. And when you open it up and then you take out, the inner, which is a ballot in there, and you take it out in a little sleeve in there. Well, as I took it out, the outside envelope, like I said, was in pristine condition. But inside, right in the middle of the return envelope that you place your ballot in, right in the middle of it was like a snip cut, like someone took some scissors and cut like right in the middle, like a little slit. So I looked at that, and I had just heard about that, like that was being done to differentiate any Republican ballots or any ballots that were not Democratic, so that they could be taken easily without even opening them by the vote counters at the polls and thrown away. We saw so much of that, so much film of that they were doing that. But that just, when I saw that the first time, I was like, well, that is so suspicious, because the outside envelope doesn't have a cut. It was not torn, torn in transit. It's in perfect condition. So why is there this snip in the inner workings of this ballot? But that was the first time. Okay, then cut to 2 years later. During the midterms, I got another mail-in ballot, the same thing again. The outside ballot was pristine. I opened up the inside, the same snip in the middle. So then I knew that it was true, and it was actually being done on purpose, and that was just like a way to throw away the ballots more easily. Okay, so back to this reading. Then I also want to say, though, that based on what Cash is saying here, that also recently we're just finding out that cartels are now putting out cash rewards for Antifa in Chicago, to whether they wound or unalive or burn any ICE or any law enforcement personnel. They have rewards, like cash rewards, for doing that now. So it's getting really intense. And anyway, Cash Jordan, not the Cash I was talking about, Cash Money, but the guy of this channel, Cash Jordan, says, they want to attack our troops. They want to get rid of capitalism. They want to bring in communism and free every single illegal immigrant in that jailhouse. National Guardsmen coming in are going to help with crowd control. They're going to help to detain people that are out of their minds, and hopefully we can finally get some law and order back to the streets of Portland, which will be a good thing not just for the people who live in this city and want to try to live normal lives, but for the rest of America. And then, listener, I'm going to say, and more on that rest of America topic in my upcoming podcast that I'm going to do pretty soon. To get more behind the scenes of, I don't want to say it now, but things that could be on the streets all throughout America. Talk about crowd control. So then there's this, that's the end of that from Cash Jordan. And then there's this little short thing from the incredible independent journalist, Andy No, spelled NGO. He's a blue check mark on X, at Mr. Andy NGO. And he was someone that a few years ago, I mean, it was well documented, he was almost completely unalived by Antifa in Portland, and I think, no, or was it Seattle? No, it was Portland. Yeah, they really almost unalived him. He was in critical condition. Luckily, he recovered. He had to go to the hospital and all kinds of stuff, but he's a very brave guy. He's still doing great work. Yeah. So Andy put this out on X. He said, Mark Bray, and this is spelled Bray, a financier of International Antifa and the author of the Antifa Handbook, has announced he is fleeing to Europe, believed to be Spain. The announcement follows U.S. government declaring Antifa domestic terrorists, and the intelligence community is looking to establish the international links to declare International Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization. Bray is one of the major financiers of the International Antifa Defense Fund, which also announced that it was shutting down to relocate its operations abroad in an attempt to escape U.S. prosecution. Then at Rutgers University, which I don't have to say it's called at Rutgers University, but I'm referring to Rutgers University. At Rutgers University employs the violent extremist advocate as an assistant teaching professor. He previously taught at Dartmouth and earned a rare rebuke for his advocacy of Antifa political violence. Antifa believes in maiming and unaliving targets branded as, quote, fascist, end quote, to further their terrorist cause. Yeah, because, listener, it's just the worst irony ever that the biggest fascists, the most violent and terrible fascists, call themselves Antifa, like for anti-fascist. Yeah, they're not. They're the opposite. So then I just want to put, because this is kind of capping off this podcast, I just want to say, guess what? The IRS is placing more than 34,000 employees, or about 46% of its workforce, on furlough starting Wednesday. That was today, as the government shutdown stretches into its second week. The agency will also temporarily pause many taxpayer services. Listeners, what nice timing that is, because it's just a week before there's an IRS payment deadline for any taxpayers who received extensions on their 2024 filings. So gosh, listeners, geez. And there's hardly anyone working now at the IRS. What a pity. Stay tuned for more. Let's wait for more and more whittling down of that place. Yeah. Okay. I think that is all I'm going to say now. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have so much that I want to continue on with my Red October series. Like I said, really giving some kind of behind the scenes facts and really interesting stuff. But I felt like I had to give this podcast, this part 3 podcast right now about something current that's happening, because it is important. And for people that still may think and believe the mainstream media's gaslighting, that everything is just handy dandy in these sanctuary cities and it's just like an exaggeration of people who are saying, no, there's really like civil war on the streets and it has to be addressed, it has to be cleaned up. It really truly does. I end all of my clips with the closing prayer, which is in Sanskrit and Telugu, and what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, peace, peace, peace. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you, and bye-bye for now.